Chapter 11. Under the Fig Tree. One afternoon, when Augustine and his friend Alypius were home together, a visitor was announced. It was Pontitianus, a high official from the imperial court. He was, like Augustine, originally from Africa, and he had come to meet his learned fellow countrymen. They made themselves comfortable, and during the conversation, a few epistles of Paul, on the table in front of him, caught the eye of the visitor. Pontitianus, who was a Christian, immediately began to talk about them. As they talked, Pontitianus told Augustine and Alypius that a short while ago he and two other courtiers had visited Trieste. While wandering around the countryside, the two courtiers had come upon a hut where two poor hermits lived. The hermits were reading a book about the life of their great leader, Antonius. The visitors asked to read it also, and when they did, they were greatly affected by the faith of Antonius, so much that they decided then and there to give up their position at the court to join the hermits and lead pious lives. It had been a great sacrifice, because both men were engaged to be married. After Pontitianus had left, a great restlessness settled on Augustine. He envied the courtiers who had unexpectedly found real peace. Suddenly, he grabbed Alypius by the arm and began to shake him. "Tell me!" he shouted. "Did you hear that story? What do you think of it? Don't you think it was ridiculous? Simple people can claim heaven while we learned people, full of knowledge, stand on the side and watch?" His voice was strangely hoarse. Alypius looked at his friend in surprise. He saw that his face had undergone a complete change. It seemed as if heaven had suddenly come very close to Augustine, and he was filled with a consuming desire to be part of it. Augustine ran into the garden and fell down on a bench. He was found there by Alypius, who had started to worry about his friend. Augustine never noticed that his friend sat down next to him. He was fighting an inner battle. His entire ungodly life displayed itself before his eyes. He wanted to free himself from his sins, but he could not. Suddenly, he got up from the bench and ran further into the garden. In the farthest corner, under a fig tree, he fell to his face, and panting, full of hesitation, Augustine uttered his first real prayer. How long? Oh, how long? Tomorrow? Always tomorrow. Why not right away? Why can I not put a stop to this sinful life right away? But listen, what was that? The garden next door was separated from him by a wall, and from behind that wall came the voice of a girl singing, "Tole, leg," which meant, "Take, read." Augustine did not know the song. He had never heard it. The words were completely new to him. So he believed they were sent by God as a direct message to him. Take, read. That is a command from God, he thought. He jumped up from the ground and went to the bench where Alypius was still waiting for him. There were the epistles of Paul, which Alypius had taken with him into the garden. Augustine picked them up, and the first words he read hit him like lightning. He read, "But put on the Lord Jesus Christ, and make no provisions for the flesh to gratify its desires." "Alypius," he said, "listen to this. These words are for me. God has sent them to me straight from heaven." His face glowed with happiness while he spoke. The restlessness had left his eyes, and a great peace had settled in his heart. He closed the book, but Alypius calmly said, "I'm very glad about that, Augustine, and your mother certainly will be even more. But you also have to read what follows." Again, Augustine opened the book and read, "As for the man who is weak in faith, welcome him, but not for disputes over opinions." Don't you think that these words are also written for you, Augustine? "Oh yes, these words are certainly for me," answered his friend. "I can feel it, Alypius. My newfound faith is still very weak. My pride could still stand in its way. I want to become a Christian. I want it with all my heart, but now I still have to become one." Alypius nodded his head. It was exactly as Augustine said. "Now I must go to Mother," he said. The professor ran toward the house. Alypius let him go. He realized only too well that this meeting between mother and son allowed no room for a third party. Coming into the house, Augustine went straight to Monica's room. He ran toward her, and with the words, "Oh, Mother, The Lord has delivered me." He fell into her arms. My boy," she sobbed. "Then we can now travel the same road together." With that, she burst into tears. "Lord, I thank thee for allowing me to see this day." That night, Monica did not sleep. She could not. Now, however, it was not with sorrow as on so many other nights, but she was too joyful to settle down to sleep. At last, the Lord had heard her prayers. Now her task on earth was finished. All she wanted to do was sing his praises and go in peace.